doing really well. Welcome to Phoenix History. We are today in Sussex, and we're to do an observation bunker and also an observation post, which is the first on my channel to do. Now, we've done auxiliary units, many auxiliary units before. If you've not been familiar, feel free to type in auxiliary units. Very interesting. It's very similar to one in Kent I did a very long time ago near Lymm. Which was basically all that was left was the corrugated stuff that was placed in a pile, so the underground section had completely disappeared. But today, this is very interesting because there's a few remnants of it. I'm not going to say too much, just stay with us on the other side. Yeah. Let's go do it. Come on. Welcome back. We're going to make this as brief as possible, but we're also going to fill you in with lots and lots of history for what it's worth. We are part of what would have been labelled as an auxiliary unit's post, bunker, however you want to sort of describe it for yourselves. The idea was that during World War II, these were designated to what would have been an extreme version of the Home Guard. Now, most of you will probably be aware of that as being labelled as Dad's Army for some of you as well. Auxiliary units and the Auxiliary Corps, for example, were a very special sort of like side unit of that. And what that meant was basically was that if Germany had invaded, then these groups of mostly men, in fact all men really, would have been local to the area, and most of them probably would have been like wardens, part rangers, most of those types of people who just knew the layout and the area very, very well. And the idea was that as Germany was making its way through to London, or well, that was the idea in theory, was that these crack units would have been disrupting as the Germans were sort of marching their way through on their route to London. We've done a fair few, but they've been in various stages of condition and decomposition. Now, I'm very well aware that there are probably, I know a couple actually that are in almost fantastic condition, and to this day I'm still desperately trying to get permission to actually film them because they're on private land. However, on this one, we're on National Trust property, and it's just off the beaten track of the site on footpath. In fact, we can see it from where we are. What happened was that the Royal Engineers had built this one specifically. The group, they were designated into their individual groups, and then you had things like zero stations, etc, etc. I don't want to get too caught up with all that because I know that some of you World War II historians will probably correct me on whatever I do, and I always try to keep a basic formula as best as possible so you can all understand it. So let's turn around and actually look at what we're talking about. So the Royal Engineers would have built predominantly this in some iron sheeting, which what is left basically corrugated. What you would have seen on Anderson shelters, and that will be very prevalent to the second part of this because we're actually going to visit what is actually more exciting to me, which is an observation post, the auxiliary unit's observation post, which is the same part of this, and hopefully we can still find it. But what we're looking at is essentially the top end of the bunker. Now, at one end you would have had an escape hatch predominantly, and then on another end you would have had potentially a sort of semi-standard entrance. They do vary. Some of them would have had what they call elephant trunk sort of escape hatches, which are these like big old pipes that lead out. I'm trying to keep it really basic. The three things that remain, or four, are the corrugated sheeting. It's well documented, by the way, this on the National Trust website. And like I said, it would have been the Hurst Pierpoint group, I didn't think I mentioned that, who would have operated on this, and there would have been around about 6 people potentially. Again, varies on what areas. The thing that excites me the most is this, which is the original pipe, which for whatever reason has stood the test of time, and we are now, as you can see, standing directly on top. And this pipe actually is probably an incredible piece of history in itself, and we've seen actually on some of these bunkers that these actually do survive. And then I'm going to take you to the far end, and then I'll work my way around. So what we don't know about this one is necessarily the exact layout. I'm sure there's probably records of it. You can see there's a huge pitted hole here with some corrugated stuff stuffed into it. it's very interesting to note that this obviously, because it was built by the Royal Engineers, we know roughly the standard layout would have been this corrugated sheeting, and then you would have had some probably wooden timbers or wooden frames as well within that, and you would have had some wooden bunk beds. Then you probably would have had some, they would have been like these sort of barrels, like these empty barrels, which would have been for like weapons storage. So they would have put their weapons in, just or any ammunition or anything like that, just inside. And then the idea was that they would have been stationed in here, and then they would have crept out, and then disrupted, come back in, and that was it. The conjecture normally is that, unfortunately, debate amongst yourselves, obviously the records would state potentially that the shelf life of these people wouldn't have lasted actually that long. It's quite possible, and there have been ruminations of this, in fact, from other people that I'm aware of, so please don't feel like you need to correct me on this, that if Germany had attacked, knowing what their strategic operations would have been, it's quite possible they would have captured local people and probably not tortured them, or maybe even tortured them, depending, to gain information on who these types of people were doing. We've got to understand it's very similar but not identical. Have to be very careful, because I know some people want to desperately criticise what I'm doing. Very similar to the French resistance, what was happening over there when France was being occupied, except in Britain, England, we'd got it pretty much ready and willing in action. And like I said, they weren't exclusively Dad's army or the Home Guard, but they were an offshoot of it, you could argue, the Auxiliary Corps. And like I said, operated by the Royal Engineers. Sophie's standing roughly just on the bank of what would have been here. And we know that this all exists because it's been very well documented, like I said, in the National Trust record. Now we know that if I get my torch out, there is actually a hole here, which, believe it or not, you won't be able to. We've already had a look. It's overgrown, so it's just completely collapsed in on itself. But what it does do is it does give us the exact or rough guide as to where we're looking here. So can you see in that, everybody? Oh, try not to get my camera in it. There we go. And you can see that there's a little bit of a pit and a hole. Normally you get, like, it depends on each one, but yeah, that's very difficult to sort of show in any context. But yeah, it's just all collapsed in on itself. But yeah, that's definitely one way in, and then going across, and we're roughly, what are we, about a quarter of the way up the hill. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Let me just show you one more time this wonderful pipe as well, and then what we'll do is we'll tell more of the story once we find the observation post, which I'm hoping we'll find. Otherwise it's going to be a very short video for a lot of you out there. But like I said, this is a history channel. Try to do our best in documenting what we can. And yeah, there you go. Right, Sophie. Oh, should we carry on?
Yeah.
Come on. Hello everybody, excuse my appearance. I cannot believe I'm genuinely really excited by this. I can't believe we found this. This is the first time I've ever found what is referred to as an observation post within an auxiliary unit. The idea was that the patrol would have used this as an observation post. And what we'll do is when we come out, we'll show you the view, because it's absolutely stunning. And you'll understand why it completely looks back on to the opposite side. So say Brighton's behind us. It's sort of looking onwards to Hurst Pierpoint, potentially. The first thing you see is this, which is one of the pipes. I cannot believe what I'm seeing. I really mean that. And I've visited, as you know, fair few now auxiliary unit posts. And this is just incredible. This is corrugated iron, is what they sort of said. You can see from the top of what's happened. And I'm going to attempt to crawl into this as best as possible to sort of show you. Now, I've not actually looked in, but screw it, let's just do it. Come on. Right, everybody, this isn't going to be pretty, but we're going to do it. Very well aware that there's like a menagerie of spiders and God knows what. So, Sophie's going to join me in a minute. Oh, wow. That's crazy. That is crazy. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. So, this in essence, if you can hear me, is an Anderson shelter. Repurposed into an observation unit post. Now, I'm not going to look up for the fear that there are cave spiders, but look at this. That is incredible. I think we can safely say I don't need to come in anymore. But, for actual danger purposes, the idea was that this would have been connected via a telephone wire. It would have been to alert the rest of the patrol as to anything they've seen. I swear down, this might be one of the coolest things I've ever seen in World War II. This actually still survives. I keep tempting to keep going in a bit further because, oh, I'm going to do it. I'm actually moving in. This is amazing. Can I get up? I can. Huh? Oh, wow. Look at this. I don't care. There are bugs literally crawling all over me right now. And spiders. I'm actually in an Anderson shelter constructed by the Royal Engineers as part of the auxiliary units on this amazing hillside. And this is as good as it gets, everybody, for World War II history. There are, like I said, better auxiliary units posts in better condition. But this is an observation post which is tied in. I dread to look up behind me on top of my head. There is probably a menagerie of cave spiders and whatnot that are probably brushing my hat. But to actually sit in this Anderson shelter, because that was what it was designed to do, just literally just a tiny corrugated shelter that is basically just infield, and the idea was that it was just used simply as an observation post. I mean, I know I always say on Phoenix History that I try to give you unique things, but to actually see this in the condition it's in, it's not going to last long now. We can see the degradation on this. You see the wear that's been taken out. Originally, there would have been a back to that, but it's been torn out. I'm covered in wet, chalky mud. I don't care. It's the incredible experience. Flower, are you there? I think I don't know where Sophie's at. Oh, I'm having to now crawl backwards. Sorry about that. Thing went off. Yeah, look. I just don't think it gets any cooler than that. And I actually went in it. I was actually in it. And it's bowed, it's corroded. It's horrible condition. But it exists. And I've just whacked my head on the top. Oh, wow. Oh. How cool. Let's get out properly. Come on. Well, everybody, I've made it out. Sometimes you've just got to accept that it ain't going to look pretty when you record stuff, but here's the pipe, which obviously would have been integral really to the survival of this observation post in more ways than one. And we can just see roughly the view. I will show you in a minute where we're at. And this corrugated top here, all buried. I am amazed. Oh my God. I'm amazed that has survived. Absolutely incredible. There was a photo, and it was taken a while back, and yeah, for the Hurst Pierpoint auxiliary units, for the locals in threat of invasion, literally why they built this stuff, linked up to the now buried and disused auxiliary units post. I've never seen anything like that. I know it's only an Anderson shelter in its construction, but it's used in its function. We've never covered anything like that before. We've done similar type things like zero stations and stuff related to auxiliary units. Pretty much done them all, but what an experience that was. Truly humbling. That is incredible. I was actually worried at first we couldn't find it, because it is literally needle and haystack type thing. But as per usual, you persist. We found the post to begin with. We knew that obviously that was how it was. And now look at what we found now. Remarkable. All built, like I said, by the Royal Engineers. This wonderful little Anderson shelter construction, buried. I think I've said it all really. Right, well, meet up with Sophie and we'll get to show you, more importantly, the view that we're looking at. It's truly worth it. Come on. Well, everybody, we're now situated just on the ridge of the hill, and we're going to show you a little bit more of it. Come on. Hopefully you enjoyed that wonderful drone footage. It just really gave you a perspective of really what they were sort of looking at from above, and fantastic flying by a certain person. Yeah, hopefully you really enjoyed that video. I did. I thought that was incredible. I thought the observation post, I said, you can tell I got really excited by that. Cause like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. So, but yeah.
I hear you from where I
stand. Yeah. In the immortal words of Phoenix history, I don't think the words "because history matters" have ever been more true. The fact that just about survives that, and obviously what we saw on the top, the fact the pipes still survive. We're now on our way back home, back into our county of Kent. Fortunately, we can't take you along with us, but what we can do is promise you more incredible adventures on the way.
Yep.
Stay tuned. Have a look at, shall I say, Sophie's Instagram, link below. And we'll of course see y'all very soon. Are you ready, Sophie?
Yeah.
Kapow!